Mexico. When you think of the Mexican style, you think of war. Not a chaotic war, but a methodical war, in which constant pressure, round after round, is delivered with an intensity that few nations can match. The Mexican boxer is not there to dodge, but to move forward, to close the angles, to impose a rhythm, and above all, to hurt the body. Because the signature of the Mexican style is body work, they have turned their specialty into an art with devastating hooks, often short and almost invisible, thrown to the liver or ribs again and again until the opponent bends. This style does not rely on evasive defense or aerial movement. It relies on the chin and endurance. The Mexican has no problem taking 2 punches as long as he lands 1 good shot for every double he receives. Julio Cesar Chavez is the perfect illustration of this style. This boxer moves forward without letting up and breaks his opponent's defenses slowly but surely, and with each exchange, he takes a bit more ground and a bit more oxygen from his rival. His left hook to the body was a weapon of mass destruction. It was simple, but brutal and unstoppable. Even though it's quite tough, it relies on an underestimated tactical discipline. Foot positioning, the way to attack in a straight line, the timing of combinations, all of that is taught from the beginning. The Mexican boxer is trained to endure pain, to absorb and return, but also to read the flaws and exploit every moment of weakness in his opponent. Canelo Alvarez embodies this modern version of the Mexican style. Less frontal than Chavez, more patient and strategic, while keeping the same obsession with body work. For him, the work is surgical. Every shot is calculated, whether it's his jab, his short straights, or his uppercuts. They all hit hard.
United States. The American style is not a single style, it is an arsenal. A real toolbox where each boxer draws based on his strengths. Because here, boxing is taught as a science. They do not train soldiers, but thinkers of the ring. It all starts in the dusty gyms of Philadelphia, Detroit, or Las Vegas, where coaches build reflexes before even teaching how to punch. The mantra is clear: not getting hit is half the victory. It is from this creed that the Philly shell comes, an asymmetrical guard popular in American boxing, made famous by boxers like Floyd Mayweather Jr. It relies on a rotation-based defense characterized by the shoulder blocking, the tucked-in chin, and hands ready to punish. The American style is also about footwork. It is not necessarily about dancing, but about purposeful movement, an art mastered to perfection by fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Roy Jones Jr., or the legendary Muhammad Ali. All of them used their legs as a weapon, not to flee, but to provoke mistakes and break the rhythm of the opponent. The American boxer is trained to move forward, backward, circle around the opponent before landing a blow or a series of blows. Once he has learned to observe, he knows when to strike, slow down, speed up, or provoke errors. This ring intelligence is what defines American boxing. In the 1980s and 1990s, the United States produced a generation of stylists composed of very fast technicians. All of them had the ability to go from an airborne jab to a short liver hook without the slightest imbalance. This generation was full of complete boxers capable of doing everything in the ring. The frequent presence of boxing tournaments also greatly fosters this. But this style is not limited to finesse. There is also a tradition of power. Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder, Thomas Hearns, these are natural punchers trained to destroy in a second. What sets them apart is their ability to combine power and explosiveness within a structured framework. The United States represents a combination of multiple boxing schools around the world, and they manage to use strategy faithfully to do what is needed in the ring at the right moment.
Cuba. Cuban boxing is the school of perfection. Here, there is no useless show, no provocation. Everything revolves around the obsession of hitting without being hit. In Cuba, boxing is not a sport. It is an institution. Kids start in their teenage years in state-run schools, where every movement is corrected to the millimeter. There are no brawlers here, not even street fighters. They train technical dancers capable of reading a fight like a musical score. The Cuban style is based first on footwork, in which every step should be used to avoid adversity. The goal is not to exchange, but to disarm. Guillermo Rigondeaux, Joel Casamayor, Teofilo Stevenson, these names all have one thing in common. They made their opponents miss before punishing them. They perfected their boxing so that everything is calculated, whether it is the jab, the footwork, or the slips. Cubans shine in the amateur world because their boxing is built on the clean hit. It is a style that demands monk-like discipline and snake-like patience. There are no mistakes, no excess, and especially no waste. In Cuban boxing, the coach is supposed to guide the boxer, telling him when to move, when to strike, and he is the one who gives the green light for every action. This is where the famous coldness of great Cuban fighters is forged. The rule is to strike only when it is profitable, and to disappear before the opponent dares to respond. Cuba is also the art of countering. If you look closely, you will see that Cuban boxers are rarely spectacular, but they are almost always accurate. They do not break distance with force. They erase it and turn the fight into a true hunt, where the other ends up chasing shadows. Even among the professionals who left the island to box freely, the style remains intact. Rigondeaux against Nonito Donaire, Lara against Canelo, Ugas against Pacquiao. 3 examples of men who made legends lose their bearings, simply with slips, timing, and liver counters. Cuban boxing is the silent poison that suffocates without noise.
United Kingdom.
British boxing is based first on fundamentals. Here, there are no frills and no exotic styles. One must adopt a straight stance, chin tucked, jab forward, and the right hand ready to go when the time is right. It is a disciplined, squared style built on repetition and rigor, and in clubs from Liverpool to Manchester, from London to Sheffield, this school dominates the United Kingdom. It does not aim to impress, but to dominate by imposing rhythm, structure, and logic. The British jab is the boxer's central weapon. A dry, tense, precise punch that cuts the ring and bothers the opponent, and sometimes even knocks him out. In short, English boxing does not look for flair but prefers technique to measure, tire, and smother the opponent. Lennox Lewis did this for a decade with a high guard, straight lines, and surgical strikes. His style had nothing to do with emotion, it only sought efficiency. But behind this rigid appearance, the United Kingdom has also produced unpredictable boxers. Tyson Fury is the perfect example. A giant over 2 meters capable of boxing backwards, switching stance, and constantly feinting. Fury took the British school's foundations and added mobility, ring reading, and a nonchalance that breaks the mold. He is the exception, not the rule. The rule remains the same. Control the center, discipline the guard, and precision in execution. British coaches emphasize structure. Punches start from the ideal position, movements are short, and footwork is grounded. No floating legs, no dancing arms. Boxers learn to fight on the ropes, to keep a cool head, and not to waste energy. Carl Froch, Ricky Haddon, and Joe Calzaghe, each with their own style, built their careers around the foundations of English boxing. English boxing is meant to be logical. It does not take unnecessary risks. It works from distance, places its combinations, and closes angles. It does not bet everything on one punch. It builds a fight round after round with seriousness, and if you see it overwhelming the opponent, it is because everything was locked in beforehand.
Philippines.
Philippine boxing does not follow usual rules. It bypasses and surprises. It relies essentially on improbable angles, jerky movements, and footwork that is both brutal and fluid. It is a boxing style that does not seek to fit into an academic framework, but instead blows up the framework. The Filipino boxer steps into the ring to impose a chaotic tempo, constant pressure, and a series of short and sudden hooks to wear down the opponent's body and mind. The style finds its roots in the streets and also in makeshift gyms where technique is forged through instinct and intensity. The jab is not always classic, the footwork is not always symmetrical, but the aggressiveness is always there with an improbable execution speed. Combinations of 2, 3, or even 4 punches, uppercuts that land their target, and hooks from blind angles, that is the ideal of a Filipino boxer. Their mindset is forged in difficulty, in the suffocating humidity of gyms without ventilation, and in endless training rounds where one learns more to absorb than to pose. Manny Pacquiao is the perfect embodiment of this school. He never fought like an American or a Cuban. He did not feint in silence, but on the contrary, he advanced cutting, zigzagging, and striking with a frequency that forced the opponent's defense to tense. It was not about brute strength, but about pure speed, agility, and breath. Pacquiao embodies the constant pressure that overwhelms the opponent, and that is the signature of Filipino boxing. It is a boxing style that does not aim to save energy. Its thing is to throw punches even when the target moves, even when the timing seems uncertain, because the intention is clear, to unbalance and multiply strikes, to disturb, disorient the opponent's brain, and break his game plan. And often it works because opponents don't know what to expect.
Japan. The Japanese style is based above all on rigor and the science of detail. It does not necessarily seek to entertain fans of spectacle. Its objective is to define a strategy in which every movement is calibrated, every punch is thrown with a clear intention, and above all, with perfect technique. It is a style of boxing built on repetition, on mental endurance, and on the ability to do exactly what is needed at the right time without failing or overdoing it. The Japanese boxer steps into the ring with a precise mission. He does not come to improvise, but to execute a plan. His guard is tight, compact, and his chin is tucked in. As for his elbows, he keeps them low, and everything starts from the center, a fast and precise jab. Later, the Japanese boxer follows with combinations, always clean, never too long, but always sharp. There are no unnecessary gestures, no punch thrown without calculation, because here everything is optimized. Naoya Inoue is today the ultimate example of this style. He hits with rare precision and advances without rushing, always analyzing and gathering information. And as soon as he reads the opponent's rhythm, he takes action with cold brutality and perfect timing. Since he has clean technique and optimal posture, he hurts his opponents every time he lands a punch. This is what we call Japanese efficiency. But behind this apparent coldness, there is an intensity that never lets up. The Japanese boxer does not show his fatigue, even less his doubts when he has them. He continues again and again in a style that wears down the opponent and forces him to fight at a pace he does not control. This style was born in dojos where silence is respected, where every strike is corrected, repeated, and perfected. Discipline prevails over instinct and order over creativity, but that does not mean it is a rigid style. On the contrary, it is a discipline that allows boxers to adapt calmly and adjust. There is a rule that obliges Japanese boxers not to lose their temper or overreact, but rather to keep control of their fight.
Ukraine. The Ukrainian style is much more focused on intelligence before strength and mobility before impact. It is a boxing school built away from the spotlight in gyms where movement is taught as a language in its own right. In Ukraine, they do not learn to hit harder than the opponent, they learn to be elsewhere when the punch lands. They learn to see the fight as a game of chess. This style is based on 3 pillars. The first is footwork. Vasily Lomachenko is the absolute embodiment of it. His way of sliding, pivoting, and circling his opponent as if dancing on an invisible grid is unique. He never avoids the exchange, but he refuses to stay still and creates an opening with each of his steps. In short, he makes each step a dodge and a repositioning that gets him ready to fire. The second pillar is ring IQ. The Ukrainian boxer reads the fight like an open book, anticipates and sets traps. He manipulates his opponent, breaks his rhythm, or imposes his own to provoke mistakes, which he will then exploit clinically. Alexander Usyk, heavyweight world champion, proved it against larger opponents without ever needing to dominate them physically. He smothered them with control, feints, and game variation. The third pillar is mental discipline. The Ukrainian boxer does not box with emotion, which means he does not get agitated or carried away. He stays in his plan and inflicts damage without rushing. It is a style that destroys without seeming brutal. The method is simple to understand, but hard to execute. You need to make meaningful actions and perform calculated movements. This style is the result of a very particular system in Ukraine. The training goes through a highly structured amateur path with hundreds of fights before going professional. They learn to judge distance, to manage rounds, to save every breath. They are not taught to look for a KO, but to build an advantage. It is boxing of points, of precision, and of economy. When this style transitions to the pros, it becomes a formidable weapon because it is cleaner and consistent enough to neutralize any opponent's power.
Thailand. The Thai style cannot be understood without mentioning its martial heritage. Because behind every Thai boxer lies a Muay Thai fighter, it is in this crucible that athletes forge their mindset to endure and respond with cold brutality. When a Thai boxer steps into the ring, he does not bring just his boxing. He brings his tenacity, his toughness, and his survival instinct. This style expresses itself through constant pressure, but not like the Mexicans where it is calculated. Here it is a direct, almost animal commitment embodied by the Thai boxer who seeks to close the distance, to hit, slow down his opponent's rhythm, and break him. He does not need complex feints or fluid movements as long as he is in his opponent's space and prevents him from breathing. This style works because Thai boxers are not afraid to take punches, they are trained to absorb and they keep advancing even when it hits hard. Their chin is a weapon in itself. They know that to win a close war, you sometimes have to absorb to punish, and this is where their bodywork becomes formidable. They are boxers who destroy the base, who hit the sides and target the liver and stomach until the opponent physically breaks. Sri Saket Sor Rumvisai is the perfect example. He does not have the finest technique, he does not move like a dancer, but he has toppled champions with his power, his pressure, and his relentlessness. He beat Roman Gonzalez, one of the best technicians on the planet, simply by pressing him to the limit. It was not magic, it was controlled chaos. Another fundamental aspect of this boxing is physical condition. Thai boxers have exceptional cardio. They train in camps where rounds follow one another without rest and where the heavy bag is hammered for hours. This preparation allows them to maintain the same pace from the first to the last round, even when the fight becomes brutal.